You're listening to 91.7 WCUR The Curve. I'm your host, Maureen Farley, and you're listening to the show Bloom, the show all about self-improvement and growth. Today we have two special guests. One is still on her way, and she is a Westchester University alumni, Christina Roshan. And we have a very good friend of mine and my roommate, Megan Rush. Do you want to say hi?
Hi.
Hey! You're currently listening to Crash Into Me by Dave Matthews Band, and we'll have a couple more songs coming up before we get into our today's topic about body image. You're listening to 91.7 WCUR The Curve FM. You're listening to 91.7 WCUR The Curve FM, and I'm here today with Megan Rush.
You.
And another special guest.
Hi, I'm Christina Roshan.
All right, and we're here today to talk about body image, which is a really important issue in the world, and I think for everybody, regardless of your age or your gender or your background. I think that a lot of people do struggle with body image, and it's an obstacle that keeps you from becoming who you're supposed to be. So I have Megan with me and Christina, and do you have anything that you want to add to this topic or something to open our discussion?
I could open up our discussion.
Go for it.
I'll talk briefly about my history. I have a long history with mental illness, and I was always self-conscious about the way I looked. I always wanted to be skinnier. I would wear baggy clothes and not necessarily what I wanted to wear, because I didn't think I could wear like the tight clothes and stuff. But I didn't fully develop an eating disorder until the age of 20. And that was when I understood how powerful like society's how their influences and the view of like being this perfect, tall, skinny model, and how much I wanted to, like I was putting my life on the line to achieve that body type. To me, that was my only way to be happy. So I think it's really powerful, and it's something that people brush off and don't want to talk about, but it takes lives. So I think it's good we're talking about this.
Why do you think people brush it off?
I think it's uncomfortable to talk about, for one, because you don't want to insult anyone, you don't want to. And also, I think there's just mental illness in general, there's just a stigma that goes around it. I mean, I remember I opened up to a roommate and said I was going to residential treatment for my eating disorder, and they told me, go inside, I'm going to make you a bowl of pasta and you're going to eat it. I was like, okay, if I could do that, I would have done that a while ago, and I wouldn't be going to residential treatment. I think people just aren't educated, and that's not necessarily their fault. It's just not a conversation we normally have.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times people might brush it off too because it's something that they think is like really superficial, like achieving what you want to look like. A lot of people can attribute that to being self-centered or, you know, something that's not a real problem.
Exactly.
Until it does turn into a real problem.
Exactly.
You know. What do you think, Megan?
I definitely agree that it's a real problem. I've dealt with body image issues, especially like middle school, high school.
Yeah.
You see all these small, skinny girls, and like I'm taller for a girl, so I understand. Like I always wanted to be shorter, skinnier, but I definitely think it's brushed off all the time because no one takes it seriously or they don't understand. And like how you said that they would want you to go eat right now. It's like that's not how this works.
Exactly.
I think that something that I really admire is the Dove company and like what their foundation does for women. Same with Aerie, I think.
Aerie, yeah. I have a bag from them that says like this girl is not edited.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah, and same with Dove and their campaign for, I think they call it the Campaign for Real Beauty or something like that, where they try to appeal to women of all shapes, sizes, colors, and they don't edit them, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And there's like a huge power behind Photoshop, where like you really can achieve that level of what is considered beauty, I guess.
Yeah, they set a standard that isn't real, or it's not achievable, like you said.
Yeah.
It's a standard you can never get to.
Yeah. And I think that things like social media and Instagram and Snapchat, like all of those things come with filters, but like real world is unfiltered.
Exactly. And also on social media, you have to think people are posting, they're not like posting everyday stuff. They're posting like
their highlights.
The really good things. Exactly.
Yeah.
So you'll look on social media and it seems like everyone else has this perfect, amazing life, but you're not seeing all of it. You're only seeing parts of it.
Right.
And they'll also, I mean, they'll post the edited, like, 20th picture they took of the same pose. Like,
Right, exactly.
It's not like it's just a snap photo and it goes up.
Right. And there's also Finstagrams.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have a Finsta.
I don't.
Yeah. A lot of people don't do it. But I do follow a couple friends' Finstagrams, and they show, like, the raw type of everyday life kind of stuff. And I think that that's actually kind of brave.
Yeah, no, I admire people that put themselves out there, and they might not realize, but they could be changing someone's life. Like,
That's
someone
true.
could be following them and relating to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't do Instagram, but I respect those that do. I think that that's
More power to
pretty
you.
brave. And I do think that social media in general can encourage like a comparative culture where you're always like comparing your life to somebody else's.
Do you want to hear
Yeah.
something really interesting?
Yeah.
So I was talking to, I'm in treatment, I see a psychologist, and I was talking to them about this comparing behavior. And they actually explained to me how we learn, like, our instinct is to compare because we learn by comparison. Like, you learn a dog is a dog because it's not a cat, you know? So
That
that's
makes
how you
sense.
learn things. So in our nature, like, we're
Yeah.
compelled to compare. And then when you have something like social media, which is a platform for comparing, like you said.
It's really easy to get
Yeah.
drawn into it
Mm-hmm.
and compare your life to the highlights of somebody else's life,
Exactly.
which can, always feed into like a negative feedback loop for negative self-esteem and body issues.
Yeah, definitely.
And body image and self-esteem are like really tied close together.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
when do you feel the best about yourself?
Me personally, I think when I have my makeup done and I have like my hair done,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like that's not a great thing because I should be comfortable in my own skin, which I am for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
but I deal with my own issues.
Mhm.
So I feel like as a woman, we use makeup and hair products and clothes to cover up what we don't want others to see. It's like a whole mask,
Mm-hmm.
but I totally just forgot what question you asked. But
Well, when you feel the best.
yeah, so that's definitely,
And you probably feel that way. I'm not saying it's right or wrong because I agree with you. Like I always feel better when I'm like clean and showered and like
Yeah.
I look decent.
mhm.
But we probably feel that way because that's what we were taught,
Yeah.
from the world around us, that you should look a certain way.
Yeah, you should always be like pampered and beautiful,
Yeah.
as they say.
Right. But there is, I think, a lot of beauty in like choosing to not participate. in those
Absolutely.
things.
Yeah, I had a teacher in high school who gave us all extra credit if we came in the next day with no makeup, our hair not done.
Really?
Yeah, nothing. Like in our pajamas, if we just came to school as we woke up, he said.
That's really cool.
Yeah, he gave us extra credit, and it was actually interesting to see. That was a hard class to pass, so
Yeah.
extra credit was worth it. And all of the men did it, but most of the women,
Just
the girls in
didn't
my
do
high
it.
school didn't do it. They
Wow.
wore their makeup, they wore their hair all fancy, and
Yeah.
they didn't get the extra credit. Like for one day, they were not willing to.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in high school, you're grouped with this other group of kids and you're stuck with them day in and day out, and I could see them not wanting to let their guard down for even one day.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Especially at a time where you don't know who you are yet.
Exactly.
You have to just kind of like blend and fit in with
Exactly.
like what you know. And so I do think once you have your body image in a healthy place, that's when you can start to develop like good self-esteem and like start to understand who you are as a person. I think all of those things are linked.
I completely agree. Like the question you asked before, when do you feel best about yourself? It honestly, like if you asked me 5 years ago, it would have been after I did an eating disorder behavior and I looked at the scale and my weight was lower.
Right.
But now I don't even use the scale. I don't know my weight. I just trust that like I'm eating healthy and I'll be at whatever weight I'm at.
Yeah.
And now I guess I feel my best. I do feel good when I do my makeup and my hair,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
also just getting out of the shower and just being fresh and clean. And
Mm-hmm.
that's
It's a great feeling.
that song, So Fresh, So Clean. Yeah, it's a good feeling. And it's interesting. I've never reflected back on how that has changed.
Yeah. What's always helped me is to realize that your body is always just constantly changing. Every day you're going through like a different aging process, and like your cells all die off and then regenerate. So every day you're physically a little different than you were yesterday.
Exactly.
And so it's difficult to judge yourself based on only your body because it's always changing. And you have to, at least for me, it always helps to view myself as a work in progress in many ways. You know, like you're developing intellectually and physically and emotionally every day. And every day's experience can help you become who you're supposed to be, which is also always changing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to judge yourself because, in a fair way, because there's not a baseline,
Yeah,
you know.
and you're biased. I think
Oh, yeah, of course.
we love like our pets and our family members for their flaws. Like you could say like I have an old dog who's really lazy and I could offer you to trade you that dog for the perfect dog and you would never trade your dog.
Oh,
But
no,
then
not at all.
exactly. But then when we talk about ourselves, we don't love ourselves for our flaws like we do other people.
You're listening to 91.7 WCUR The Curve. I'm Maureen Farley, and you're listening to Bloom, the show about growth and self-empowerment. And we're here today talking about body image and self-esteem. And I have two guests.
Hi.
That's
Hi.
Christina, and this is Megan. And so before the break, we were talking about eating disorders, and we were talking about self-esteem and how outside sources like media and different ideals can affect your self-esteem and your body image in potentially harmful ways. But we didn't talk about other ways that it manifests itself in other compulsivity disorders.
This week is actually BFRB Awareness Week, which is Body Focused Repetitive Disorders, or behaviors. So it kind of manifests itself in the same way that cutting yourself and eating disorders, it's an anxiety-driven compulsivity. It goes with OCD. So personally, I have issues with pulling out my hair, picking at my cuticles, and a lot of people do too, you know. It's the same thing as chewing at your lips or biting your nails. It has its own issues, and it's all anxiety-driven, and it's compulsivity. You don't know that you're doing it, and you can't stop. It's like the same thing with the voice inside your head. It's like you're hurting yourself. Like I am literally pulling out my hair, and I shouldn't be because it hurts, and it doesn't look good, and it messes with my self-esteem, but you do it anyway because
You feel like you can't stop.
you can't stop, yeah. And it takes a lot of self-control. And I think it's really hard because it's the same thing with self-harm. You know, you got to be able to have a good support system, and you got to be able to talk to people about it. Like, for the longest time, I would hide behind fake lashes and makeup and hope for the best that nobody would notice that I didn't have eyelashes. And I've even been asked, do you have cancer? Why is your hair falling out? Like, you know, and it's embarrassing. And it's the same thing with like eating disorders and everything. It's like in the end, it's embarrassing for you because it's almost like you're ashamed, and you shouldn't be. You have these issues, and we're dealing with them as a whole, as a person. And
in like whatever way that makes sense to you.
yeah, you know, and everyone has their own issues, and it's hard, like, going back to Instagram and Facebook, you see the highlights of people's lives and you think that they're perfect and the popular clicks, quote unquote, you know.
Right.
They look like they're having the time of their lives, but in the end they could be having all these issues as well, but nobody knows. And I think that's where it comes back to, you need to have this conversation with your friends, with your family.
With somebody.
Yeah, like
Somebody.
even a therapist. We were talking during the break, I think everyone should go to therapy. It's
Give
a
it
great
try.
time.
Yeah.
I love my therapist. I've been going to therapy since I was probably 14,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's important. You gotta be able to talk to somebody, even if it's just your mom, which I love my mom. I always talk to her about my issues. But sometimes you need someone that's unbiased,
Right.
that doesn't know you like a therapist, you know?
Right. And saying it out loud sometimes makes it more real.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Instead of just like keeping it inside and this is just something that I do, or like this is just how it is. If you talk about it out loud, then maybe somebody can help you make sense of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think being that person also for other people, like the person, like if you think someone has something going on, just asking them, hey, are you okay? And even if you are pretty sure someone knows you care about them, just reminding them, like, hey, I care about you. If you ever need to talk, I'm here. I think that can change our life, just being there for someone.
For sure. And also like knowing that there's not really shame in asking for help.
Yeah, I actually know some great resources, especially for eating disorders. If you go to there's a foundation, the National Eating Disorder Foundation, NEDA, NEDA, and they have an online quiz you can take, which will kind of, it's not, I wouldn't definitely go by it, but it can give you an idea of what type of treatment you would need, or if you're questioning whether you have an eating disorder or not, you can take this quiz and it'll let you know, okay, you might want to look into residential treatment, or okay, you might want to look into intensive outpatient or some stuff like that. And Rogers Memorial Hospital, it's one of the only 3 hospitals in the U.S. that treats OCD. It's in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. They're the same thing. If you call them, you can do a free, not trial, but consultation, and they'll kind of tell you the treatment they recommend. They actually just opened a branch in Pennsylvania, which is really amazing because they're a great hospital. So it's exciting, and we should take advantage of the fact there's such a great treatment center so close. And there's also the Renfrew Center, which is a great center for eating disorders. And the mental health clinic here on campus is absolutely amazing. You have to go to the counseling center and get referred by the counseling center, but they offer it for affordable prices. It's only $10 a session per student, and if that's hard for you to come up with, they can talk to you to make a specific payment plan and things like that.
And you also do get 1 semester of free counseling.
Yeah, at the counseling center. And the counselors there are great. And I think everyone expects, well, you see on TV when someone goes to a therapist, like the first therapist they go to, they automatically open up and they break down and they like are treated in 1 session and it's all amazing.
Cured.
Yeah, but I think, one, you might not always like your first therapist, and that doesn't mean therapy isn't for you. That just means that therapist isn't for you. There's so many more out there. And also, therapy is hard work, and it's a long process, and I think you're never done with it. It's something that I know I'll be doing for the rest of my life. Yeah, work in progress. And I think it's important to look at yourself and just even be proud of yourself for the little things and the little changes you've made.
And you were talking about that too, about how therapy is really difficult, and it's not like necessarily fun all the time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've gone through 4 or 5 different therapists since I was a kid. Like, it's hard finding someone that you can really open up to. And even when I found my most current therapist, who I love, she's a sweetheart, like, and I can really be myself in that session. It took me almost 6 months to fully open up about myself and deal with my issues, you know. And if you can't just do that, which I think it's important to know that the campus offers free counseling, but you gotta be able to go into it knowing it's not gonna cure you after 2 sessions.
Right. And bringing it back to body image, your mental health and your emotional health all help you to see yourself as valuable and see yourself as a person who can make a difference. And everybody has that ability. And, in the end, your body is really just a house for your spirit. And your spirit has to be okay in order for you to love yourself and achieve everything that you're supposed to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, thank you very much, Christina.
Thank
And
you
thank
for
you very
having
much,
me.
Megan,
Thank
for
you.
coming on the show and opening up a little bit. I know that can be hard, so I really appreciate you coming out and talking with 91.7 WCUR, The Curve FM, Westchester University.
Of course, thanks for talking about this.
Yeah,
It's
thank
great
you.
you're talking about it.
I think it'll open up conversations for people who are listening, and hopefully they
Yeah,
can
for
talk to their
sure.
friends.
And this will be on YouTube, so if you want to start a conversation, you can always just comment below. All right, well, thank you very much. We're going to
That's
listen
good,
to
thanks.
one more song, and have a great week, Westchester.